So the 2025 British Bank Awards have just taken place. So I thought it's a good opportunity to take you through who the winners were, or at least some of the winners, because there are a number of categories on the night, and my thoughts on some of those results as well. Now, what I love about the British Bank Awards is that this isn't decided by industry, a panel of people who work in banking. Okay, this is voted for on our sister site, Smart Money People, by you, by customers, people who are using these banks and building societies and credit card companies and investment firms and apps on a daily basis. So they actually know if it's good or not for us, for users. And that is, I think, really different to what you see out there the rest of the time. So the voting took place throughout this year. You may even have voted yourselves. I know a lot of the banks do contact their customers, ask them to vote for them and show their support if you're a fan. So let's have a look at some of those key categories. Let's start with the first one, the biggest one, which was the last one to be announced. This is the Best British Bank. Now, the last 2 years prior to this one, Chase has won. Before that, it was Monzo and Starling were kind of the key contenders there. In 2025, the big winner was Monzo once again. Monzo are back in there. Now, the feedback from the reviews that were collated talk about, continue to impress with the app, the tools, high levels of customer service, generally feeling it's very easy to manage their money and be supported by the bank. And I think that's all true. This is what you guys who are Monzo customers are experiencing, and I think that's very true from my experience of using it as well. Now, you will know that I don't use Monzo as my main banking app. I tend to use Starling instead, but I would be very happy using Monzo instead if I'd happen to choose that one first of all. I think they're both very, very good. In fact, I can't be bothered to move my money over, my banking over. I think Monzo probably has that edge as well for a lot of the things it does. Now, this is talking about as a bank as a whole. Maybe there are other banks that I might go down supporting instead of that, but I think that's a deserved win for Monzo there, back on the top of the table. I think it's interesting as well that Chase didn't win this year, having dominated the previous 2 years. And I do wonder how much that is around reducing the cashback offering, lowering the interest they offer on savings. So still, the interest they offer and the cashback they offer are better than the likes of Monzo and Starling do. But without them, I wonder whether their customers are thinking, actually, no, this isn't, I don't love it as much as they did. Whereas Monzo customers, they're happy with what they're getting elsewhere with those other sort of budgeting tools. Next, we've got Best Building Society. Now, last year that was Darlington Building Society won that. The year before that was Leek Building Society. And this year it's Newbury Building Society. And some of the comments from voters, from customers, talked about the kind of personal touch, talked about transparency, talked about community. And I think, if you look at this year's winner of Newbury, previous year's Darlington and Leek, this is where a building society really does sort of stand out. It's that kind of much more personal touch, that much more local touch in many cases. Yes, so many of the building societies are national now, not just nationwide, but the likes of, Coventry buying up Virgin Money, they're going to get bigger and bigger as well. But something about building society that you're going to get that extra level of customer service, that extra level of personalization, I think, as well. And also the thing I love about building societies, which is if rates are really similar enough with savings, for example, I'd always choose a building society over someone else because they are much, much, much more ethical as well. You've got that real sort of strength going for building society. So lovely to see Newbury Building Society represented there in this category. While we talk about that ethical side, let's talk about the Best Ethical Finance Provider category. Now, if you listen to any times I talk about an ethical option for your current account or for your savings, then you will not be surprised to hear that Triodos has won, and it's won for the 4th year in a row. And I think if anybody else was to win, it would be a bit of a scandal, really, because you cannot get better than Triodos when it comes to ethical banking. They are head and shoulders above the rest. There are some good ones runner up to that, closer up to that. So personally, again, I say, you can look at any building society would be pretty good in that sort of perspective as well. And if you really want that kind of much more sort of high street, mainstream option, then Nationwide is a really good option to go for there. But if you really, 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 really value the ethics of whether that's environmental, whether that's corporate tax, whether that's funding of things such as arms or oil pipelines, whatever these things might be, you want to be sure your money is not being used for anything that you might personally feel is unsavory, then you can't go wrong with Triodos. The downside particularly when it comes to the current account, they obviously do lots of other things. Well, they do savings, they do investments, is you do pay £3 a month for that current account. And it maybe doesn't have as many of the features that you would get from some of the other either digital banks or the high street banks. But that's how they do that. You pay £3 a month, 36 quid a year. Whereas other times the banks are still making money. They're just not, you don't necessarily see it straight away. You see some of the more disadvantaged customers getting charged overdraft fees or getting worse deals here or there. So really, really pleased to see Triodos getting that one again. Now, there are some sort of general sort of breakdown categories as well here. Best current account provider. Now, for the third year in a row, the winner here was Chase. So well done to Chase. I know I just said the changes they've made this year, maybe why they didn't perform as strongly in Best British Bank, but they've still done well in Best Current Account Provider. And it does have some decent features, some decent things you can do there. I think you're going with Chase for that fully digital experience. There are things that you cannot do with Chase's current account, but if you don't need to do some of those bits and pieces, and they are the more fringe things, just general everyday banking, it is incredibly easy to use it as a current account. And as I spoke about just really recently, you can get up to 10 different current accounts really quickly, really easily with a soft credit check within your account. So, okay, mainly that's designed for budgeting, but you can use it also for dummy accounts, for switching and things like that. So third year running there for Chase. Now, when it comes to savings, this was I thought was a really interesting result here. The winner here, the shortlist had big names like Chase and Train212, ones that we've mentioned quite a lot in our savings tables like Tembo and Raisin and Zopa. But the winner here was Monument. And you might be thinking, who are Monument, right? Well, they are actually regularly in our list of best buy tables, which we update over at becleverwithyourcash.com/savings. We're updating it twice a day, all the best rates, and Monument are regularly in there. Obviously, with all providers, sometimes things come and go. So they're offering competitive rates, maybe not right at the top of the table all the time, but they are often in there with something competitive, which I'm sure that has contributed here. But it sounds like from the votes that people put in, the comments when they were voting, a lot of it is just around that kind of ease of use. And this is something you always got to remember. I mention it from time to time. Rate is really important, but you want to ideally get a good rate with a good, easy to manage, easy to open, easy to transfer account. And it sounds like Monument does that really well, which is why its users voted it here in this category. There are a number of ones which these smaller names you might not have heard of and you can be a bit unsure about. So it's good to know that the customers here, they do reflect a good customer service. And I should say, actually, obviously these awards, I say they are run by our sister company, Smart Money People. But I've said this before, I say it again. If you see these names, and this is particularly, I think, when it comes to savings accounts, if you see an account provider and you don't know who they are and you've never heard of them, but the rate looks good, go and read the reviews on Smart Money People or elsewhere and just see what people are saying, if they like it, if they've had any issues, because that's going to be hopefully help you decide to go with one provider over another if those rates are pretty similar. Now, this is one that I really agree with, this next one, Best Banking App. Now, this is the third time in 4 years that this bank has won this, and it is Monzo again. So not only to get Best British Bank, they also got Best Banking App. And I think really that is partly it. Because the app is so good, the redesign that happened, was it last year? I think really, really, really helped bring it to another level. They are innovating all the time. That's something that the customers left their reviews when they were voting. They've only just recently introduced in the last few weeks the option to cancel a payment really quickly, an undo feature. They've recently been doing a really sort of souped up splitting the bill feature. Always adding stuff in, always changing things, really easy to use. So I'm not surprised that Monzo has won the best banking app again. So the next category is Best Newcomer. Now, I'll tell you who some of the previous winners are, and that will hopefully give you a sense of maybe why you want to keep an eye out on the winner here. But previously we've seen Crew, we've seen Tembo, we've seen Cheddar, and we've seen Yonder just over the last 4 years. Now, you might still be unfamiliar with some of those names, but they are all brands that we have spoken about on the channel, on the podcast, and over at becleverwithyourcash.com in that time, which means this year's winner, iFast, could well be one that we talk about more as well in the coming months and years. Now, the reviews here talked about iFast and praising it for multi-currency banking, making it more convenient than ever. So this obviously is something we don't talk about too often, multi-currency banking, but if you are down that route, you've obviously had a good experience with iFast in order to vote for them as the best newcomer this year. We have seen them try a few different things as well, which will creep into more of the regular topics we do talk about. So, for example, right now they are offering only until the end of June, but 2% cash back on spending. Now, that could be something that disappears completely at the end of June, or maybe they'll extend it. They've also been offering interest on the balances there, and again, across different currencies. Hasn't been high enough to compete with the top of the tables, but it hasn't been as bad as many others. So yeah, one that we will certainly keep an eye on, and I'm sure you guys will as well. Now, as I said, there are a huge number of categories. You can see the full list of them over in our article on becleverwithyourcash.com, or just head to the Smart Money People website as well. But a couple more I want to highlight quickly. Best mortgage broker. We are going to be doing a lot more content on mortgages in the coming months because it is something which so many of you asked us about when we did our annual survey. But the best mortgage broker 4 times in a row is Tembo. And of course, they're ones, obviously, we mentioned previously, they've been a newcomer as well, but doing really well in that mortgage broking space. In terms of best investments provider, the winner was Moneybox. Again, we've been doing more investment content as you guys have requested. The reviews for Moneybox have talked about it's helping people with the guidance. We've taken them along when they're learning about investing and things like that. So there's a big reason why Moneybox has won that one there. The best online trading platform is Trading 212. Now, we've mainly talked about Trading 212 in terms of its cash ISA, or the interest in uninvested cash, or the cashback debit card. So all things we'll continue to look at as well. But we have also got our best stocks and shares ISA best by tables over at becleverwithyourcash.com/ISAs, and Trading 212 is one of our top picks there as well. So not surprised to see it pick up best online trading platform. And finally, best business banking provider. Previous winners here have been Monzo and Starling, as you'd expect, because it's a business version of their very, very good current accounts for individuals. But the winner this year was Metal. Feedback from voters said how supportive and user-friendly the experience was with Metal. So if you are eligible for business banking, a lot of these ones here, I think more around that sort of sole trader thing. We've certainly got a best by table that we've created on becleverwithyourcash.com/business, which looks at the best free accounts. So Metal, certainly one for you to be considering there. My name's Andy Webb. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, cheers.